Alright guys, we've got a lot to talk about today. Devon talks about his left arm getting close to a title shot. Neil Pickup flames Auden regarding his match, or potential match, with Mindaugas Terrasitis. And Devon calls out Levan for a third time. All this and more in today's video. So in Neil Pickup's latest podcast, he had Devon Larratt, Auden Larratt, Travis Bagent, Mindaugas Terrasitis, and Engen Terzi. Now this podcast was all over the place. A ton of stuff came up, and I'm not going to go over everything or this would take forever. But it kind of started off with Devon just going after Genadi, typical trash talk. He's going with the whole dog thing now. So he said, I'm going to bring a dog leash. I'm going to make him sit, heel, and beg. So he's really trying to get under Genadi's skin. And in Eastern countries, being called a dog is pretty offensive. I mean, it's offensive in any culture, but I think Devon kind of knows that's generally frowned upon. So he's really going the extra mile to anger Genadi this time around. I don't know that will really work, though. Genadi's got pretty thick skin, and he kind of seems to roll with punches pretty well. And then later on in the podcast, Travis brought up the possibility that there could be a fight in Tbilisi if Devon goes too far with the trash talk during the match. Because we saw with Oleg Petrenko, Devon he basically humiliated Oleg, which I didn't really like. It's one thing to kind of talk trash, beat him in the first round, the second round, but when you are just continuously humiliating the guy over and over again, especially when he's not really responding, Oleg didn't really engage in the trash talk. He was just there being beaten very badly, and I kind of felt like the amount of humiliation that Devon put on Oleg was a bit unnecessary, and I think he's probably going to try to do the same thing to Genadi. And Travis is basically saying, if he does that, will there be a fight? I don't think there would be a fight. I think the Georgians probably like Devon, just because he's done so much for arm wrestling, and he really does take his matches seriously, and he brings his best form pretty much every time. So I think this whole thing from Travis is probably a little bit far-fetched, but nonetheless, they might want to up security a little bit. We'll see. I don't think anything would happen. But now that Travis has put that out into the universe, who knows? Maybe it would happen. I don't know. But the Georgians do seem to like Devon, generally. So a little bit after that, Devon starts talking about the left arm, and he basically said that he feels like his left arm is getting to the point where he could maybe get a title shot. And we're going to see, obviously, the match between Vitaly and Artyom Morozov first, but I do feel like the next match probably will be Devon versus the winner of that match. Even though he hasn't really pulled much on his left arm in terms of earning a title shot, I think he probably will get that match just because he is a big name, and his left was pretty good even when he wasn't training it. So I have to believe that it's definitely top 10, if not top 5 right now in the world, now that he's training it again. So at about an hour into the podcast, Auden versus Travis Bagent is just conceived out of thin air. And it seems like they both really want to do this. They both agreed to it. And Engen basically said, I'll have to kind of look at my planning, see how we can put this together. So I think we might actually see this. It's not confirmed yet as far as I know, but it does seem like both parties want to do this. So we may be seeing a Travis Bagent versus Auden Larratt super match in the very near future. Now, Travis, if he has any of his former strength left in him, he should absolutely kill Auden. And during the podcast, he actually brings up the topic of rigging the match or staging the match. And to be honest, I wouldn't even be surprised if they did this just to get Auden kind of ahead in his career. I don't think they will stage it. but it just feels like one of those matches that is more a publicity stunt than anything. But who knows? Auden is good, and he's getting better very quickly, so maybe this could end up being a close match, depending on how far into the future it's set. But I have to say, if Travis has any of his former self left in him, he should just absolutely destroy Auden. Okay, moving a little bit farther along in the podcast, Devon starts talking about if Genadi gets hurt, why not sub in Levan for the trilogy match on the right hand? And he basically said, listen, in 6 weeks, I will pull Levan, I will beat him, I think I'll surprise everybody. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm kind of tired of the whole Devon versus Levan rivalry. I don't even think it is a rivalry because of how badly Devon got beat both times. And I know Devon stopped Levan round 1 in their second match, but as soon as Levan transitioned to the press, he beat him pretty easily. And then after that, it was just one-way traffic. So I have no interest in seeing a third match with Levan. I want to see Levan versus Vitaly Laletin, maybe a second match with Hermes Gasparini. I do not want to see Levan go against Devon again, unless there is absolutely no one else left who can challenge Levan. I just really want to see some of the up-and-comers go at it. I want to see Michael Todd versus Levan if he beats Hermes Gasparini, which I don't think will happen, but I'd rather see that match than a trilogy with Devon. At this point, it's just feeling like Devon really can't accept the loss. He just can't accept that he has been bested, and he's probably never going to get that win. But I also understand that Devon, when it comes to category pulling, he is the king of category pulling. If there is a weight limit to the class, Devon is going to be at the top of that class. And so he really has no other choice than to compete in the open category, and unfortunately, Levan exists. Otherwise, Devon probably would be number 1 in the world. Near the end of the podcast, Neil Pickup just absolutely goes off for several minutes straight on Auden Larrett regarding the potential Mindaugas Terrasitis match. And mark my words, guys, this match is not going to happen anytime soon, because I agree with Neil when it comes to this one. Mindaugas would beat Auden horribly. Mindaugas is an excellent puller. He is so good. He's beaten Daniel Prokopchuk, for heaven's sake. I mean, Auden is nowhere near Mindaugas at this point, and Auden was trying to trash talk back, kind of engage, and it was a fun little segment. But yeah, I don't see this match happening anytime soon. And if I remember correctly, recently Devon even said himself, and I believe it might have been on The Fix with Neil Pickup, that Mindaugas is a little bit too much for Auden right now. So it was a fun segment. It was very, very dramatic. Yeah, we're not going to see that. All right, so that podcast was the big story for today, but we'll move on to some smaller things. If you're interested, Knuckles Up 5 will be held on January 25th. And we've got some notable names here. We've got Ron Bath versus Mario Timbakis, Ryan Bowen versus Tom Holland. That should be a good one. Don Underwood versus Reichard Bornman. If you don't know, Reichard's a really strong up-and-comer, I believe, from Australia. And the main event is Jordan Sonev versus Farit Osmanli. Now, I believe Farit has competed at East vs. West in the past, and he's a really big guy. If Jordan can pull off the win, that would be super impressive. I'd really like to see Jordan back at East vs. West or King of the Table. He is an excellent puller, and I feel like he's definitely at that elite level. So I would like to see him back, but I'm glad to at least see that he's staying active and he's still pulling. And then in other news, Jake Ward, also known as the Aussie arm wrestler, interviewed Milo, and it was just kind of a chill interview. Jake was asking Milo about his aspirations in arm wrestling, talked about his life and what led him to choosing to pursue arm wrestling as a full-time gig. One of the comments that Milo kind of made that caught my attention was, "We aspire to be the Paul brothers of arm wrestling." He's obviously talking about Jake and Logan Paul, if you don't know. And I'm not sure if he wants to go for that. The Paul brothers are probably hated more than they are loved, but I kind of get what he's going for, and they definitely are becoming the quote Paul brothers of arm wrestling. Everybody's calling these guys out. I mean, Auden's got requests out the wazoo to pull him. I think overall this is good for arm wrestling. It was just a very accurate description of kind of what the Larratt family is becoming. Jake also asked Milo if he were to have a cornerman in a match, would he rather have his brother or his dad? And he actually said he'd rather have Auden as his cornerman, basically saying that Devon is kind of indecisive when he teaches, and he really kind of wants you to find your own way, whereas Auden is much more decisive, much more black and white, and he'll just tell you how it is. This is right, this is wrong. And I've seen this. I thought when Devon was teaching Brian Shaw, he has a method of teaching where if you know how to arm wrestle, you can understand what he's saying. But if you are new to arm wrestling, it will make next to no sense. I can't really describe the way he teaches, but if you just go and watch videos where he's instructing people, imagine you knew nothing about arm wrestling, and what he's saying will make almost zero sense. So that didn't surprise me much that he'd rather have Auden as his cornerman. And another thing that I thought was kind of significant was that Milo and Auden have agreed to not compete against each other for the foreseeable future. They don't want to stunt each other's success, and I don't think they want to have a rivalry. I don't think they want that tension, and I think that's a good thing. They should both do their own thing, train together, but I think competing against each other would probably be a little bit counterproductive. So all of you who are wanting them to do a super match, just know that is not going to happen anytime soon. And if you don't know who would win, Auden would clearly win. He said right now Auden is pretty far ahead of him as far as overall strength goes. So it's not even like a super match would be some war. Auden would definitely win that. For those of you who are asking, it sounds like that match is not going to happen. All right, guys, that's all I got for you today. Sorry, my voice is a little off. I've been fighting some kind of throat cold here. So anyways, have a happy new year, guys. Bye.